Hey there, welcome everyone for another video and of course another movie review. Today I'm going to review another movie for Bruce Willis, and today I'm going to discuss and talk about a movie, and that's Striking Distance, which came out in 1993 and was directed by Rowdy Herrington, who directed this movie behind me, Roadhouse. Now, this movie came out September 17, 1993. I think this movie should be released in May, but was actually pushed till September, till September for this film. Now, I watched this movie last night, and I remember it was actually, I remember seeing scenes because this movie came out in movie theaters, but it was a box office flop. Now, Striking Distance, it's a, I don't know, it's a good, I have a mixed experience for this movie. It's a good movie, but at the same time, it's not a good movie. It's confusing because I would say it's a lame, cheap, terrible, flop movie, but it's still entertaining. It's actually still entertaining. I would say it's still a decent movie, but it has a lot of problems and flaws. You can see by editing how the movie was. Now, Bruce Willis is actually one of my favorite action stars. I love the Die Hard films. My title is Rambo McClane for life, which I'm a huge fan of the Die Hard franchise. I have a poster of Die Hard A Vengeance there. If you watch my older reviews, you see I used to get the poster of the first Die Hard, but sadly got ruined, so I actually bought the third one, because the first and the third one I enjoy. I love Bruce Willis, but watching this film last night, I actually got bored until the third act. The third act was the best. But yeah, I'm just go more into the plot. The movie talks about a serial killer called, I think was the Polish Strangler, or was something like that. I'm just gonna call him an intelligent serial killer, stalks and kills people. So far, actually kills women. So far, he killed 5 young women in the past few months, and the cops are chasing him. Detective Tom Hardy, played by Bruce Willis. That's him. Detective Tom Hardy, played by Bruce Willis. He hunts. He and his father, John Mahoney. That's his father. They're both cops, and yeah, they go both, and they're actually chasing him. Are chasing them. We have a actually good car chase in the open cinema, and the killer is running away from the cops through the pursuit on the highway, and you have a really good car chase. That scene is really good. The car chase scene is really good. When you see in the tunnel, there's like a car, a police car flips over. Pretty good scene, and you have an explosion. Also in Bad Boys, you can see when Burnett's kids are watching this movie. But that was really good. That scene was really good. And we also, when Bruce Willis' character, Tom Hardy, and his father try to catch the killer, we have a great car flips over. Both cars are flying through in the air, and then they crashed. I love that scene, the crash scene. I love the scene. So the killer escapes, but Tom Hardy's father is actually been killed. So now, so now the killer escaped, and Tom Hardy's partner, who's also a cousin, Jimmy. I did not wrote his last name. Jimmy, his cousin, who was also a partner, he was accused for police brutality, and he was found guilty, and he's supposed to be charged, and he's supposed to go into the prison, but he jumps in the water from the bridge, and of course and of course Tom Sizemore's character Danny blames Tom for the death of his brother. In meantime, the cops they actually did arrested some character named Kessler, who's supposed to be a strangler from Polish Hill. That's how it's called. And Tom Hardy believes he couldn't leave those women. He's not the guy. Someone framed him and everything. He's not the guy. And his Uncle Nick says they caught him. He confessed he is the guy. And Tom is pretty sure he's not the guy. So now 2 years later, because this is in Pittsburgh 1991, so 2 years later, Tom Hardy is now, he's actually now, I think as a river police, he's actually now a river cop. He's a river rescue cop. He drives on a boat, but the killer strikes once again. And before he kidnaps a young nurse, he calls Tom Hardy, leave a song, Little Red Riding Hood. That's the song for the film. Little Red Riding Hood. That's the song for the film. And he calls him, leaving a message, and he starts. He kidnaps another stewardess, and he makes sure that Tom Hardy, he goes and kidnaps his own. He goes and kidnaps his own ex-girlfriends and starts killing them. And yeah, he goes and starts killing them, and he lives in the river, so that Tom has to find it. So Tom gets a new partner, and that's Joe Christensen, played by Sarah Jessica Parker. She's also a cop on the river, and she's now her partner. And while Tom starts illegal investigation to find out and solve the murder, because he's pretty sure that it's the same pattern, it's the same killer, but no one believes him. And the reason he was kicked out of the house, kicked out of the force, was because he said another cop killed his dad. He said the killer is a cop. And so Hardy, while he's an alcoholic cop, he's an alcoholic cop on a river, and he patrols on a river. He tries to catch the guy, but he has a romance between her partner. Yes, they have a romance in this movie. The romance was terrible. I don't know why the fuck was even sex scenes in the film, really. Okay, I'll get into my problems soon. So I'm just gonna scratch the love scenes. So for now, so Hardy he gets on this hearing because they are thinking about suspending him and taking his badge permanently, and nobody wants to work with him. And it turns out that Joe is actually Emily Harper. She's internal affairs. She went undercover, but she instead that she will testify against that she would went and testify against Tom. She actually sticks up for him, and she said, when he pulled the gun, she also put the gun as a backup, and yeah, she actually stick up for him. She defended him in the court, which I'm surprised. And still, Tom still liked her, and he called her, went on an answer machine. By that time, she got a stunt, from a stun gun. Because all 5 women 2 years ago they were strangled, and there was stunned with a stun gun, and then they were shot. And Thomas is actually convinced is the same killer, and it turns out that it is actually his cousin Jimmy. He's not dead, he's alive, played by late Robert Pastorelli. And he killed Kim Lee, another girl that Tom was working with, and he went and killed her, and he went and killed her. Then he kidnapped Emily Harper, played as Joe Christensen. Joe Christensen. He's a river patrol cop. I forgot to mention it, but he goes to his old cabin. And at first things, that's actually Danny that kills people, because he was as a cop, and he left the force, or he was kicked out of the force. But turns out it was Jimmy. They all three are tied up, and Jimmy says, "Who's the best cop now? Who's the best cop now?" I don't know what the fuck was this line. Probably Bruce Willis put on it. Stupid line. Who's the best cop now, in my opinion. So there's a struggle. There's a fight scene. Tommy escapes, jumps in the water. Jimmy goes after him, steals the boat. They have a really good boat chase scene. And by the finale, when detective fights, when Hardy fights Jimmy, I had something in my teeth. Sorry, I had to see that. So Jimmy, he goes, Tom grabs electroshocker stun gun, and stuns him, says, "Who's the best cop now?" and stuns him. And by the finale, he's on the grave, with his dad and his grandkids, and then he leaves. And that's it. We see Sarah Jessica Parker and her young daughter, and he says grandkids, and that's it. I did not find this movie at all amusement. Now the problems, the reason why I said cheesy, corny film. First off, this movie was budget $30 million, but it was a box office disappointment. It's a flop. It only earned $24 million. The budget cost $30 million. Was shot in Pittsburgh. All the scenes. Now. The movie has a terrific cast, which also, I'm actually just gonna go with the problems and how this movie was made, and I'll go with the problems. First off, the last scene between Sarah Jessica Parker and Bruce Willis was stupid. Well, I don't know why. First off, she's been undercover. She's been working with him for 3 weeks, and she falls in love with him, and she goes in his bed. That's unrealistic. And by the way, partners, they should be both fired for dating. They're stupid. That was just really stupid. It was unrealistic. The reason was because there were shots after reshots after reshots to make them more sexier. It was just stupid. It wasn't sexier. This movie was just terrible. The movie. The reason why the movie, I like the film, but I like the film. Yes, I like the film. The third act, Robert Pastorelli, rest in peace. The late actor Robert Pastorelli saves the film. The third act is the really good one. The opening scene in the third act is a really good one, but the rest of the movie is just blurry. It's just boring. I felt bored with the film. I barely make it until the finale. And in the high school, yes, I watched Striking Distance. I liked that film, but now as an adult, I can give this movie a pass. Um, Now I'll actually get, the problems was the love scene. Second, I wish that Sarah Jessica Parker wouldn't even been in the film. I wish that Tom Hardy would be alone. Yes, he's Tom Hardy, not the actor, but I wish he would be alone. It started well, but when Sarah Jessica Parker became Bruce Willis' partner, it was terrible. This movie has no fist-to-fist cars. It's barely has any few shootouts. The killer barely uses the gun until the finale. But Robert Pastorelli, in my opinion, saves the film. The third act with Robert Pastorelli is the only good thing about the film. Even though Bruce Willis is the hero, he's not. He's a terrible hero. He's alcoholic. He's terrible. He's awful. He's terrible as an action hero. I would rather put Die Hard all 4 films, even this one, right there. I will put all. I love this movie right there. I love this movie more. I'll put this movie above this film. I'll put this movie, above this film. All 4 Die Hard films, even the 4th one. People complains about because it's PG-13, not because it's a flying car. I thought that Live Free or Die Hard is a damn good film, in my opinion. So I'll put all 4 Die Hard films. The Last Boy Scout I enjoy more with Bruce Willis. I reviewed that movie in Monday. I enjoyed The Last Boy Scout. Love the movie to death. I'll put The Fifth Element is much better film. I'll put even Last Man Standing. The Sixth Sense. I like that film. The Sixth Sense is much better film, which I'll review the film. I'll also put Red 1 and 2, Hostage, Sin City. Those movies are actually my top 10 favorite Bruce Willis films. This movie will be my least favorite film. Now, how this movie was made? After the success of Gladiator by Rowdy Herrington, he went. The success of Rowdy Herrington's Gladiator. He and the writer screenplay Martin Kaplan. I'm just gonna call him Martin Kaplan or Kaplan. They wrote a screenplay which was meant for Robert De Niro and Ed Harris as the lead role for Columbia Pictures. The chairman, CEO, and of course CEO and the chairman of Columbia Pictures. CEO and the chairman of Columbia Pictures, this guy Frank Price, who served as a producer on Gladiator, got fired, and they bring a new chairman, Mark Kenton. The guy wasn't nice at all, and he and Rowdy Herrington, I think, was his agent. They went in the basement to watch Gladiator, and he wasn't even nice. He said that they actually sold the script to Columbia Pictures, and when they watched the film, Mark Kenton said that the fight was unsatisfying. It could have been longer, and Rowdy said, okay, it didn't meant to be. And so later from Pittsburgh, he called him and told him that Bruce Willis got the script, and so Rowdy was hired to direct this film and to do this film, but Bruce Willis bring his high school buddy as a writer, and he put the shots, and the test audience hated the original cut. And of course Bruce Willis put his writer, his high school buddy, to put the scenes, for the role from Robert De Niro into the cut, and they did reshots. The problems that caused with this movie was actually put further into May, which was supposed to be released in May, but actually put further for the reshots because Mark Kenton demanded. The chairman of the Columbia Pictures, he was the reason that the Bonafide of Vanitas, that movie which was Bruce Willis in it, flopped. Last Action Hero flopped. He was the reason. He demanded that there should be reshots after reshots. And Bruce Willis was very angry. He yelled on Rowdy Herrington. He blamed him for everything. He was unprofessional. And Rowdy said that he tried to be nice. He tried to keep his cool. He tried to be nice, but Bruce Willis did not listen to him. He tried, it wasn't like Rowdy Herrington wanted to be. And he said his agent represented Bruce Willis. Mark Canton represented Bruce Willis. He had no support. His lawyer represented Bruce Willis. He had no support. It was just terrible. And Bruce Willis, one of the sources claimed that Bruce Willis called the shots just like was in Hudson Hawk. Yes, that movie was terrible. I could not finish movie Hudson Hawk. I tried to get in back in high school, tried to get in the film. No, I couldn't. It was just terrible. Hudson Hawk was one of his worst films in my opinion. I could not finish it. It was so confusing and forgettable film. I could not get into it. Now, Striking Distance, Rowdy Herrington said it was awful. It was terrible. He said that this is actually his least favorite film. He said that Bruce Willis makes a lot of money, but he treated Rowdy Herrington as dirt. He treated him really poorly and badly. I mean, even though I read that Rowdy Herrington, he defended Bruce Willis, but Mark Canton and Bruce Willis butchered this film. They butchered the scenes. Because honestly, there was actually a different killer. It wasn't now I remember, Jimmy Castillo. It wasn't him. It was actually a different killer. But no, they had to do that. And Bruce Willis wanted to do this movie. So he was called to fly back to Pittsburgh for reshots, and Bruce Willis was very angry for the film. He was very angry to do reshots after reshots. It was just god awful. It was just terrible. To do reshots after reshots, it was just terrible. Yeah, there's barely any shootouts. So Bruce Willis goes with his shotgun, Mossberg 590 Mariner with his 12 gauge shotgun. He goes, which is kind of confusing. There's like 5 pirates on a ship. He goes on a ship, climbs on a ship, only puts two bullets in the shotgun. So the guy, I don't know why he opens the boat and Bruce Willis punches and clocks him down. He goes in the ship, clocks the guy down, clocks 2 guys, doesn't even tie them, which kinda isn't believable. So he goes with a gun. Like 2 pirates are holding, they go and holding 2 hostages. And Bruce Willis says, police, and he goes and shoots the guy, blows the guy's hand off, barely can see any practical effects, barely can see any blood, and he shoots the other guy. We see like black blood. Yes, it looked like black blood on his t-shirt, which is kind of confusing. And the guy who's supposed his head was blown off, he's supposed to scream. Watch out for Justice with Seagal when he blows the guy's leg off and he screams. That was acting performance. Acting performance in this movie was terrible. Except Robert Pastorelli's performance, everybody in this movie was terrible. Sarah Jessica Parker, sorry. She was terrible. Terrible, awful. Everyone in this movie was terrible. Yes, Dennis Farina was in this movie, and of course, Rowdy Herrington said that he liked working with him, but Bruce Willis was, it was a menace. It was really terrible working with him. Also, the movie was called 3 Rivers. Yes, the title was 3 Rivers, which are bodies in those 3 rivers in Pittsburgh, but they changed. But the Columbia wanted, the Mark Canton wanted different. 2 reshots after reshots, the movie turned into Striking Distance, into more action film than more a slasher film, or more a thriller. But the clues, I mean, late Robert Pastorelli, I mean, he was awesome. I mean, he worked in Harmful Intent. He was a bounty hunter. I kind of like that, that movie more than in this role, because he was a good guy. He was Johnny T in Razor with Arnold Schwarzenegger later, and I like him in that movie, in those two movies, much better than this movie. Robert Pastorelli saved the film in my opinion, because the final scenes are really good ones. But this movie barely has any fight scenes, any fist-to-fist counts, any better shootouts. I mean, he goes shoots with his 6-hour pistol, Tom Hardy on the killer who escapes with the car, misses him. I don't know what the fuck was he shooting. He was missing him. Grabs a signal flare, blows his car, but the killer escapes. The love scene. What the fuck was the love scene in the film? It wasn't convincing. It was unrealistic. And yes, the chairman wanted that because he thought it's gonna be box office hit. It was a box office failure. It was a disappointment. And Rowdy Herrington, I love the guy. I love him. I have nothing but respect. He did best as he could. I'm gonna defend Rowdy Herrington this review, because it wasn't never his fault. Bruce Willis fucked up and Mark Kenton fucked up. Those two guys fucked up. Those two guys are actually blaming, that this movie didn't turn that good, because it could have been better. Better action scenes. I enjoyed the Dirty Harry films because Tom Hardy is a homicide. I wish that the last scene would be cut. I wish that Sarah Jessica Parker could have got a different role, but she could have got cut. They could go and cut her, cut the love scenes, cut their love scenes. Would really like to see original cut of this film, but I think it's destroyed. But as you can see, Rowdy Herrington, he did this movie Roadhouse. I'm just gonna show you real close. Now, Rowdy Herrington, he did this movie, which is my favorite Patrick Swayze film. He directed, he said nothing but nice things about he said nothing but nice things about Roadhouse, about Patrick Swayze. Because he did an interview, it's still actually on, I know all this because I watched interview and I listened to him. But Rowdy Herrington, he directed this film, and this is one of my all-time favorite action films. Patrick Swayze's favorite film, and so is the Roadhouse. I mean, Rowdy Herrington's favorite movie he did. The second movie that Rowdy Herrington did, I will go with. I actually would have go with Jack's Back, and the third one I'll go with Gladiator, because I saw all three films. I enjoy, but this is my favorite he did. My favorite Patrick Swayze film, and my favorite movie Rowdy Herrington directed. Rowdy Herrington, he's a talented director. He really did a good job, directing the film. He really did a good job, He was talented. He did a really good job directing the film, but it wasn't his problem. He wasn't, because this movie has tons of plot holes. Like why first off, the last scenes were unconvincing, unrealistic. Second, the killer, why was targeting Tommy? Why was he targeting him? It makes no sense. Why the lines? Why Jimmy keeps saying, "Who's the best cop now?" Why? Why this has to be being the best cop? What's that supposed to be? What's that has to be? It has so terrible plot holes. I mean, Bruce Willis added those scenes in it, those dialogues in it, like the stupid lines, like "Who's the best cop now?" which makes no sense. Those plot holes in the film that makes no sense. They're just butchered. Now, I still like Striking Distance. I still like it. Like I said, I watched this in high school. The most that I watched was Die Hard 1, this one, Die Hard The Vengeance. Then I watched The Last Boy Scout, The Fifth Element, and this movie I watched because it has action. I forgot to say the music score was made by Brad Fidel, who did for the Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Brad Fidel by music score. This has nothing, this actually has nothing, you know, this has no special features. It's just only the movie. But yeah, Rowdy Herrington talked behind the scenes, and Bruce Willis was calling the shots. He was they were working with Orson Welles. He was calling the shots. He treated Rowdy Herrington poorly. This is just terrible. I read that he apologized in 2004, but I doubt that he apologized personally to Rowdy Herrington. I don't think so, because if he would apologize, you know, Rowdy Herrington would say that in the interview, but he didn't. So no, he didn't apologize. You know, Bruce Willis, you're a dick. You're an asshole and you're a dick. And you're an egomaniac. Yeah, I call you that because that was just terrible what you did to Rowdy Herrington. Rowdy Herrington deserved that kind of treatment. In my opinion, not. But yeah, by the end, it was a decent film. It was a good movie. It could have been better with those plot holes, and I wish the last scenes would be cut out. I wish that that Sarah Jessica Parker and Bruce Willis wouldn't be a couple. They just should be, if they're partners, they're supposed to be friends and partners and co-workers, not lovers. That just doesn't work in the film, in my opinion. But no, they added to be more sex. That's just stupid. Or in the open say, oh, you go a police ball. What police balls? It's when cops have balls. It's just stupid. No, it was just stupid. Tom Sizemore was unprofessional. He was stupid in this movie. I mean, I enjoy him in Lock Up. I give him credits in Lock Up with Stallone. This movie was just terrible. His beard and how he acted terrible. It's just... No, I agree with Rowdy Herrington. This movie was awful. It was awful experience. He said that he learned what he should not do in business, in movie business. And Rowdy Herrington was right. But overall, Striking Distance is a decent but corny, yeah, it's a decent film. I'll say it's a decent film. My least favorite Bruce Willis film. Definitely my least favorite film. So I like the film. I still like the film, but like I said, I will put the Die Hard films, all 4 Die Hard films, especially the first 3 I'll put above Sin City, The Fifth Element, The Last Boy Scout I reviewed. I love The Last Boy Scout to death. The Last Boy Scout is one of my all-time favorite movies of all time. Last Man Standing, definitely I'll put Last Man Standing. The Fifth Element, I mentioned it twice. I'll put Hostage, I enjoy. Red, 1 and 2. You know, even The Sixth Sense I enjoy more than Striking Distance. But that's just me. But this could have been a lot of better. Not that was not the third act was the third act. I really liked it, and the flying cars, the open scene when cars fly and they have a crash. That scene was really good one, practical effect. I like that scene, or when the police car flips over in the tunnel and explodes, practical explosion. I like that scene. Those are really good scenes. But it could have been better. A lot of shootouts, more fist to fist cops, more. It could have been more action film. But yeah, but yes, it is what it is. Still, Rowdy Herrington did a good job directing. I still haven't given him a credits. And like I said, I'm defending him. He's definitely one of my favorite directors. One day I really have to purchase Gladiator now since it's released on Blu-ray and Jack's back, which I will someday. But I do have Roadhouse, you see I have a poster. I have to fix the frame, I'll fix it later. But yeah, Striking Distance is a good movie. I mean, it's actually my least favorite. It's a corny film, cheesy, corny film. It's a 90s cheesy film with plot holes, and it's just a flop. It's not a bad movie, but just a flop film. It's just poorly edited, poorly paced film. But that's it. That's my review for Bruce Willis' Striking Distance, 1993. Thanks for watching it, and I'll see you next review for Bruce Willis, and I'm out. Peace. Bye bye.